What's going on? Welcome back to the Nickolas Natali Show. Today I have an absolute banger of an episode for you because this is a slightly impromptu episode. If you see me looking over at my notes, it's because I just jotted them down and I got this idea in my head that's been just ruminating, it's paying rent, or it's living in rent-free. It's in my head rent-free. It's because I keep thinking about it and I keep seeing things in my life that are reaffirming. The idea is that there is always another level. And essentially what I mean by that is in all facets, there is another level. And sooner or later, you're gonna find out. And if you don't find out, then you're not leveling up. That's essentially what it's boiled down to. So let's dive into it. So I want to unpack what this really means because it's deeper than just working harder or pushing further. Although that is part of it, it's about capacity and it's about who you're becoming at every level. So I want to tell you how I saw this firsthand running in the OC marathon that I just completed yesterday, which is why this is impromptu and we're doing it today, and why I think most of us are living way below our potential. So let me take you to race day yesterday, OC marathon. Trained for a good amount of time. Originally got this concept back when I ran the LA marathon in March, and I get it. You're probably sick of me talking about endurance training and running. By golly, if I keep learning lessons from it, you're gonna hear about it. So in March, I ran it. I trained to complete it. I had an injury and I just knew I wanted to get it done. And I PR'd it at the time. I shaved over 10 minutes off my final time, and I had extreme cramps and all of these terrible things. But I also ran with somebody else, a friend of mine who, hey, hopefully he doesn't listen to this message or else he's going to be flattered beyond our relationship can take. But seeing him complete it in a very quick time was just another reminder to me that there is always another level. It's like, wow, there are people out there that just perform at another level. And I think this is true in a lot of facets. There's the concept that there's 2 races in a marathon. There's the first 20 and the last 6. And typically we can look at this on a more granular level where you're going to need to find another level from 20 to the last 6. You need to find it, and not because the pain goes away or the discomfort goes away or your mindset is able to block out all the pain. Usually that doesn't happen. Usually it gets worse, but it's just your noggin committing to pushing to another point to be able to find success and accomplish something. And in this case, it's a race, which is a beautiful metaphor for everything. And typically what I'm finding is my quote unquote ceiling is just a checkpoint. And a lot of it is around the belief that there is something on the other side and that I can get to it. And another reason that I chose today to record this episode is because I've been thinking about this a lot, especially since finishing the race yesterday. And I saw a tiny little clip from Patrick Bet-David, entrepreneur, if you don't know him, a very well-known and respected entrepreneur. And he talked about this idea that there is another level. And essentially he said, every level you conquer, and I'm not quoting him, this is a paraphrase, of course, of my downloaded into my noggin version of this. Every level you conquer, there's another one waiting. And the kicker is every time you level up, you suck again. And you go from the top 20% at your current level straight back into the bottom 80% at the next level. And that's why people get stuck. Nobody likes to suck at stuff, including myself. I hate sucking at stuff. And we don't like feeling small. And that is the cost of growth. And it's terrible and it's disgusting. We hate it. We're sick of it. This actually also applies to my personal business too, of doing sales, nonstop sales for my own company. I constantly am reminded of this feeling of this is what it takes, creating systems and sucking at the system, then refining the system and then being able to delegate the system. When you're creating that system, it sucks and you feel small and you're like, why am I even doing this? This is so dumb. Or when you get a prospect that is the perfect candidate for your service and you botched the sales call and you're like, I know I could have helped them, but I said something weird and then it threw off the vibe of the call and whatever. And this happens over and over and over again. And I know there's also the concept of like your success can also be dictated by how willing you are to be quote unquote embarrassed or look dumb and work in front of others and people see your failures and all of that mumbo jumbo. And I think that is true too. And nobody likes that part. I certainly don't. Another thing that Patrick Bet David talked about, and I only saw the small little clip on Instagram, then I found the full clip and I took the transcript and I said, ChatGPT, give me the lowdown. What's really going on? And it says he talked about capacity and how capacity is not just talent, but capacity is how we use our time, our network, our resources, our focus. And it's not just, do we have what it takes, but are we using everything we already have to its fullest? And this idea is particularly relevant to me because it also uncovers more things. So when I was training for the LA, I was training to not get injured, which is smart because I had an injury. But also going into this next marathon, I had to ask myself questions once I was feeling good again in my leg. Am I training at my capacity? Or am I training comfortably? Am I doing the things that I know will make me faster, or am I only doing the things that I like to do while I'm training? For example, speed sessions. Easily, in my opinion, the most difficult workout of the week because you typically have some, mid-range runs, easy runs, it's get maybe some marathon pace, and then you got some tempo runs and some speed sessions where you're doing interval training. Then you have your long runs. Those interval training, in addition to the long runs, of course, interval and speed training was the things that I was not doing when I was preparing for LA. And that begs the question, are you doing everything necessary? And I also think about this all the time too, in the idea that I've been in podcasting for 6+ years, and I'm sure you have something that you are skilled at, that you've worked toward. Maybe you have connections or whatever it may be. I think about that all the time. My network. Am I reaching out to the people that I have come into contact with in a way that serves other people and using all of my resources to hit that capacity? Have I reached the capacity to become the part of the 80% that sucks again? Anyway, a good analogy here would be if you are a grown man and you are playing basketball against little children, you will win. But are you growing? If you continue to do the things that are easy for you to do, you might win in your level for the rest of your life, but you certainly will not grow. And a large part about this whole thing about leveling up is it constantly humbles you. Constantly. It is astonishing to me, and it's always humbling and surprising when you're in a race and you just get lapped by by people that are much older than you. I'm talking senior citizens, and they are just whooping you. They're whooping your pace. They are smoking you. And it's because they're on another level. And there's areas in my life where I'm level 5 out of 10. And I'm becoming aware that there's a level 6. That's another thing that comes up when you are trying to level up. Sometimes you don't even realize there's another level until you reach that quote unquote ceiling that becomes a checkpoint. And I'm not saying you move the goalpost and every time you reach a goal, you're like, bummer, now I'm sad because now I have to move the goalpost again. I'm not talking about any of that. I'm talking about the cost of not knowing what is even possible, or even being able to see or visualize or have the vision that the limit you've set for yourself, there's something even more. There's a vision that's way beyond that. And it's so surprising to me when I hear people's dreams and goals and they say them and then they haphazardly backtrack and like, well, that's not really what I want. That's too much. What is too much? You're alive. This is the only one you got. And to say that I'm not gonna strive for this big dream that's already been set in my heart, you can visualize it to begin with. That's an amazing thing, but then there's more. There's still more. And obviously there's bits and pieces of this ideology that you could tear to shreds, like start with the smallest thing. And of course, I have episodes on that, and this is not one of those episodes that requires that explanation. My challenge to you is to ask yourself, what level are you actually playing at? Not what people tell you, not what Instagram says, not the compliments from your circle. And I want to say this very quickly in terms of, I want this to come off very respectful. I PR'd yesterday, and I'm stoked about that. I'm very excited, but I know that's not where my limit ends. And I'm excited and stoked and very happy that my friends are happy for me, because they should be. Your circle should be supportive of you, and I'm fired up that they are. But I am not going to allow that external validation to put a cap on what I'm capable of. And it makes you ask the question, where are you underperforming in your capacity because you've been winning in a small arena? And more importantly, are you willing to suck at the next level so you can grow? Are you willing to go from the top 20% in your current room and level to the bottom 80% in the next room that's even better? Because if you want to build capacity, if you want to see what's possible for you, you gotta stop being the senior that's picking fights with freshmen. I want to give another anecdote that inspired this episode to be recorded right now. I got a comment on a old podcast episode, the one with Carl Christian Flores on YouTube. And it was like, this is so great. Thank you for interviewing Carl. This is great to see him. And a lot of compliments to Carl. And Carl, if you're watching this, kudos to you, brother. Truly, nothing but great things to say about you. But I went back and I watched that video and I thought to myself, wow, I just cannot believe how that was recorded. I think it's a great interview, exceptional interview. The quality of the content itself is extremely valuable, but boy, the quality of the production could use some work. I even think this setup that I have right now, this is temporary. This is a temporary setup because there's always another level, is what I'm saying. What I thought was a good interview 6 years ago when I started isn't the same as what I think a good interview is now. What I think serving my audience looks like 6 years ago is not the same as what I think it is now. And obviously, this contributes to the idea of growth. But there are people that are playing in the pros. And I hate to say it, it's going to sound cliche, but to be a pro, you got to play like a pro. You got to be willing to suck. There's always another level. Always. And the moment you believe you've arrived, you've stopped growing. I remember this video very vividly from a handful of years ago. It was like Gary Vee meeting Kevin Hart for the first time or something like that. And I remember watching it and just being baffled by it. This is a few years ago. I still hold on to this feeling that I saw when I first watched it. They like dapped up, you know, and Kevin was like, "You're doing all this." Oh, wow. I got to try this Kevin impersonation. "You're doing all this great." That's bad. Maybe Gary Vee will be better. You always do. I don't think either one of them are going to work. They dap up and Kevin's like, "This is such a great event. This is awesome. You know, look at us go." And Gary Vee said, "This is only the beginning." He's like, "That's the great thing. This is only the beginning." And Kevin's like, I know. And Kevin had just sold out Madison Square Garden. I don't remember if it was like his first time doing it or second time doing it. And Gary was like right when he was talking about purchasing the Jets and how he had made like his first small contribution to that. I know he wants to buy him outright or something, but it was like both at very recent huge success milestones for them. At least that's what I remember seeing. And I remember seeing them say that this was only the beginning. And that was so eye-opening to me because at that time I was pursuing, and I still am pursuing this, success in the entertainment world. And Kevin had reached that pinnacle, so I thought, in my eyes 4 or 5 years ago. And to hear them both talk in that fashion about how the capacity for them both to grow isn't even below the surface, it left an impact on me. It really resonated. So this week, the encouragement is to find the next level. And it does not have to be drastic, but do one thing that makes you uncomfortable, that reminds you you're a beginner again, that forces you to stretch, or even forces you into a state of humility, humbleness. Because the goal isn't necessarily to stay comfortable at level 5. It's to keep climbing, even when it's hard, humbling, and even when you feel like you're starting over. So I will leave you with this. Don't waste your life never finding out how far you could have gone. You got to go find out. go find your next level. That's it for me today. Much appreciated to you. Don't forget to subscribe, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye. Bye-bye.